Okay, so we're gonna jump right on into this. So, this is gonna be, I'm probably gonna turn this into multiple parts, like multiple different videos, make it a little bit easier to follow along with. So, first things first, making gear, you're gonna need some sort of like photo editing stuff. So I prefer Photoshop. Some people use other things, but the way that I'm teaching you guys how to do this is going to be like all my preferences. This is how I do things. I know a lot of other people do things completely different than mine because it may work better for them, but I'm just going off of what I do each time that I make and release gear. So one of the main things when starting making gear is having a model. So I would recommend the Jerry model, Jerry V2. It's $40, but if you really don't feel like putting out $40 for a sim model, you can always go to the Patusta model. It's pretty old, as you can see. We got 2011, but I mean, it works if you don't feel like paying $40, especially if you're just getting into making gear. It definitely recommend doing that if you don't want to waste money on a model that you're never gonna really use. So after the model, like the one other main thing that I don't think I could live without when making gear is definitely Blender. Blender makes everything like super easy for like trial and error. Trial and error with gear making is definitely one of the biggest issues. Um, that's basically all that it is. That's the way I do everything. Everything's trial and error. You do something on the PSD, and then you look at it in Blender to see how it would look on the model. And if it doesn't look right, you go back and change it until it's to the standards that you want. Um, so this video, I'm basically just making this as kind of like a setup thing, like the basics of what you need really. So we've got the model, Blender, and then I'm going to be going through the things to make norms. So it's like this Photoshop plugin. It's called XNormal. The website's kind of sketchy looking, I guess you could say, but basically all it is you come in here once you put the plugin into your Photoshop folder, and let me find. I'll do skin color here as an example. All you would do is click filter, X normal, and then height to normals. It'll show up with all these default settings. You can keep these. I've never really messed with these. I've kind of just always kept it the same. You click continue, and it'll go ahead and make the norm for you. And the norm is what you'll be making your shading off of. And so basically by that is the way that I do it is I layer out. Like after I go through and get all my seams and the stitching done, I go through and I have layers that I make. So like let's say if it was like something under the arm, it'd be like a path all the way through down through here and it'd be a shape. I would take that shape, put drop shadows on whatever I need to make it look right, make it a norm, and then after that you'll turn that into your shading. I'll show that off in a different video since this one's just kind of like a setting up thing. But if you really don't feel like using XNormal, if you can't really figure out how to get it to work, basically all you do is you find your Photoshop on your desktop or whatever. You go to your program file. Yeah, actually go to your program files, Adobe, and then you should see like Photoshop in there. You open that, and there should be a plugins folder. When you download XNormal, there's like four files that you just drag those, or yeah, four files. You just drag those over into your plugins folder, and then like if you restart Photoshop, if you already have it open, then you come back in, and then you should have it all the way down here in filters. Yeah, but if you don't feel like using XNormal, you can use Smart Norm Map. This is what I started off using. It's not a terrible software, or it's not even a software. It's not a terrible thing to use. All it is, it's just a like a browser kind of thing. So like once you have this open, you just click load. You pick whatever you want to like. You would take whatever like you want to put the norm on, like whatever you want to make into a norm. You'd take that, drag that over into a different PSD, and then save it as a PNG. Um, and then you take that picture, whichever one I'll use this as an example. You just click open. It'll go through and change this into a norm. You can invert your reds and your greens, stuff like that. You can change the bias of it, which is basically like the roughness, how much like depth it actually gives the norm. You can change blur. You can make it blurry. Basically, you can do quite a bit with this for what it is. Um, I think that's about it for the whole setup factor of everything that I use. If I left anything out in this one, I will be including it in the other parts that I end up making.